Welcome back. Now, this video is very much a sidestep to my normal content. I wanted to talk about the face-to-face debate that happened yesterday at DebateCon between Andrew Wilson and FTFE. It really was a fascinating exchange. Andrew Wilson probably doesn't need an introduction. He's the man who went viral after having a confrontation last year on stage with the one and only Wes Watson.
Focus on materialism. Why would they be focusing on crime?
Okay, it's my turn.
Please get this guy a life-size mirror. Why is it you can take shots, but if I respond, you get that upset? Because look at you. Look at you. Even be speaking. You got veins sticking out of your forehead.
He's a very slick and articulate debater with a habit of getting under the skin of people he debates, as we saw last year at DebateCon when he played the part of the villain in his debate against Matt Dillahunty, resulting in Matt Dillahunty getting up and leaving halfway through.
This guy's not serious, and I'm leaving. James, if you want a refund, you let me know.
Well, good day, sir. And I'll cover your refund, Mr. Matt.
He just said he'd cover my refund.
I would cover his refund.
No.
Now, that debate against Matt Dillahunty was on the topic of what is better for society, Christianity or secular humanism. And debating him this year on exactly the same topic is flat earth debunker FTFE. Now, on paper, this debate should have been a slam dunk for Andrew Wilson. He's familiar with having live face-to-face debates, and he's got a very long history of debating this exact topic. FTFE, on the other hand, while being a seasoned debater, has never had a live face-to-face debate, and he is brand spanking new into the topic of Christianity versus secular humanism. And on top of that, as we can see from this next clip, the majority of people who bought tickets to the live event itself, I think it's safe to say they were definitely Andrew Wilson fans.
We don't need a normative authority, we need collective experiences and how that will affect humans in the future.
Got it. So I just want to make sure. I'll steel man.
Wait for the applause. Come on. Thank you.
Let's hear some real applause.
So FTFE had it all stacked against him, and not just live at the event, but also online. The majority of people watching were Andrew Wilson fans. After all, he's a big name, and he's going to attract a lot of people to any stream that he's on. And that stream, as a result, was littered with comments like this. But these comments from Andrew Wilson fans simply don't tell the story of what actually happened in the debate. You see, what actually happened in that debate, against all odds, is Andrew Wilson lost, and I'm going to explain why. In his opening speech, Andrew targeted the tenets from the American Humanist Association. These are basically a set of guidelines that you would live by if you were a humanist.
So here it is. I'm going to read to you the tenets of humanism according to the Humanist Manifesto itself, their own words, and then apply a reasonable and logical prescription to each tenet. Now, Craig has to debunk each of my prescriptions using the Humanist Manifesto or he loses.
And what he means by that is he's going to take the tenets one by one and he's going to interpret them in his own way. He's going to suggest what they mean to him, how he would perhaps see them being applied in society. And he's going to give the most ridiculous examples that he can possibly think of. Examples that obviously are no good for society. Let's have a look at him doing that to just a couple.
Knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experiment, and rational analysis. Humanists find that science is the best method for determining this knowledge as well as solving problems and developing beneficial technologies. My prescription based on that. The birth rate is low, therefore all women must be forcibly bred. Experiments must be conducted on them to maximize fertility and thereby maximize human flourishing because science, and that is good. Tenet 3, ethical values are derived from human needs and interest is tested by experience. This is in the Humanist Manifesto as well. So my prescription based on that, we ought to have an emperor. He ought to be Darth Logicus, a one-world global government under Darth Logicus, supreme ruler of the federal peoples of Earth, will maximize the responsibility granted to them, thus recognizing their inherent dignity.
So his argument from the word go is that these tenets can be interpreted to support the most bizarre behaviours that are harmful for society. And unless Craig or FTFE can debunk them using the tenets themselves, then he loses a debate because according to Andrew, he can debunk them using Christianity. So therefore Christianity is better for society.
Now, I can refute all these prescriptions using Christian ethics. Craig's unable to refute any of them using his own standard. That standard is humanism based on this manifesto. Again, do you see the problem? Unless he just makes it up as he goes, which is what he's going to do, and that's why Christian ethics are superior, thus destroying the entire ideology of secular humanism. If Craig moves away from this document, he's admitting defeat, something he knows a lot about.
Now, when the head-to-head portion of the debate starts, it's a little bit like the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. Andrew Wilson is absolutely dead set on his idea that these tenets can be interpreted in the way he suggests, and FTFE must debunk them, otherwise Andrew wins. And FTFE, quite rightly, is sat there thinking, well, you haven't actually provided any positive evidence for Christianity being good for society, so I want to take the debate in that direction. And it leads to a very interesting and combative early exchange.
None of the things that you mentioned are about society. They're just what you don't like about secular humanism. What I'm just going to ask you is very simple.
Humanism.
Yeah, what I'm going to ask you, Andrew, is very simple.
How long are you going to filibuster, dude?
Well, I was literally about to ask a question. If you can calm down and let me finish my sentence, then you can respond.
Craig,
right, what
Craig,
I am going to ask you
chill
is...
out, Craig. Stop spurging, Craig.
What I'm going to ask you, Andrew...
Craig.
I'm like 3 words away from the end.
Craig. Stop spurging. Calm down.
Are you okay?
Do
you
you
need a moment?
We'll get to the question. Go ahead, Craig.
Do you need a moment, Andrew? It's okay.
Calm down, Craig.
If you need a moment to take a breath, that's
Go ahead,
absolutely
Craig.
fine. Yeah.
Craig, this is a great time to ask the question.
But FTFE finally wins out and is allowed to ask his question. Why do you think Christianity is good for society? And the answer we get back from Andrew is, at least in my opinion, a little bit underwhelming. He again tries to drag it back to his interpretation of the tenets and just simply how he can debunk it using Christianity. It's a little bit weak in my opinion, but it goes down well with the crowd.
Could you explain to us why Christianity is better for society?
Yeah.
Instead of just attacking your own views of society.
So let's make this really simple, right? So Craig says here, he says, well, that's your interpretation of the Humanist Manifesto. Do you see the problem? Yeah, everybody's going to have an interpretation of the Humanist Manifesto. Thus, if everybody has an interpretation of the Humanist Manifesto, including me, we can make prescriptions based on it, Craig. So now I'm making prescriptions based on the Humanist Manifesto for what? Society.
Now, this part of the debate seems to repeat itself for what seems like quite a frustratingly long amount of time, through no fault of the debaters, but they've both got their fixed position. FTFE wants absolute concrete examples from Andrew of how Christianity can benefit society, and Andrew believes in his position that he's drawn these ridiculous prescriptions from the tenets, and if FTFE can't debunk them, then therefore humanism is absolutely pointless. But the problem for Andrew Wilson is FTFE doesn't need to debunk them because Andrew debunks them himself. And this is where it all comes crashing down. You see, if you can draw absurd prescriptions from the humanist tenets, then surely you can draw absurd prescriptions from what's written in the Bible. And I wonder, when FTFE finally brings that up, how Andrew deals with that.
I ask you, how does those specific things that the Bible say that you can do make it better for society? How does suppressing women's rights and women's ability to read and talk, how is that better for society? Because the Bible says that you should do that.
Okay, so let's take them one at a time. There is no Christian nation I'm aware of where women are getting stoned
I didn't
to
ask
death.
about Christian nation, let's be clear. Can you answer my question?
Well,
I said, how does the Bible...
Yeah, is the debate over whether the Bible is true, or is it the effects of Christianity on society?
No, it's not. It's about which is better for society,
Great,
not the
which
effects.
is better. So let's go over to which is better.
Yes, it is about what is better for society. And Andrew is about to answer that question, but when he answers it, he forgets what his whole premise for this debate is about. Everything he's built his preparation for on this debate, everything he has directed his energies towards in this debate is about to crumble under his own words. How is he going to justify these prescriptions you can draw from the Bible without scoring a massive own goal? Well, he isn't, and here it is.
Where you're talking about what is better, when he says the Bible makes prescriptions that you can stone people to death, the Bible makes prescriptions that women be oppressed. The Bible makes prescriptions that women not be able to read. The Bible makes these prescriptions, right?
So how are they better
Let's
for
assume
society?
for a second the Bible does make those prescriptions.
It does, yeah.
And we just very stupidly, as Christians, misinterpreted all of that to mean the exact opposite, which must have happened because in all of these Christian nations, none of that shit's happening. Nobody's getting stoned to death, Craig, anywhere. Women in Christian nations.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I'm sure in all Christian nations, women aren't getting stoned to death.
Are you sure? Absolutely 100%
I'm
sure?
absolutely sure, Craig.
So you're
now,
absolutely
Craig,
sure?
Craig, let me finish, Craig. I'm also sure that in Christian nations, women can learn to read. Where are women oppressed in Christian nations? Where is all this happening, Craig? So either all of the Christians are really fucking up their own documents real bad, or your interpretation of the documents must be really wrong.
Right, so we've heard it there and then. Did you pick up how he's just blown his whole argument apart? He's saying if you're drawing prescriptions from the Bible that aren't seen in society, then the prescriptions you're drawing are obviously ridiculous and can just simply be discarded. Therefore, by his own logic, when he says this,
We ought to have an emperor. He ought to be Darth Logicus, a one-world global government under Darth Logicus, supreme ruler of the federal peoples of Earth, will maximize the responsibility granted to them, thus recognizing their inherent dignity, and that is good.
oh, when he says this,
The birth rate is low, therefore all women must be forcibly bred. Experiments must be conducted on them to maximize fertility and thereby maximize human flourishing because science, and that is good.
then because these prescriptions he's come up with, the ones he's so adamant that FTFE has to debunk, because we don't see them in society, we can simply just discard them, like he's going to discard the prescriptions that FTFE is drawing from the Christian Bible. It all makes so much sense until it doesn't. I've watched this debate 2 or 3 times over, and every single time I come out with the feeling that FTFE, against all odds really, won this debate hands down, and Andrew Wilson didn't really help himself. Now, that's just my opinion. Leave yours in the comments. Goodbye.